We are back, and
We're back.
we are joined with the most beautiful Mrs. Avalisa Ellicott.
Mrs. Avalisa
Mm,
Ellicott.
tell us, how was it?
It was
Come on,
amazing.
we got to get
So,
that off. We got to get, because everybody was wondering.
can you hear me?
It's okay. Go. I can.
Can,
Yes.
oh, okay, cool. So it was a 6 week process of planning and doing everything very quickly. We decided to just elope and have a little small something to ourselves. And so there's been a lot happening behind the scenes that I haven't been talking about. But yes, we got married in front of Bentonville's courthouse, just in this open, beautiful little park, and had all our family there. And it was absolutely amazing. And now I am Mrs. Ellicott. And
Blind. I just got blinded by that. What was that like?
this is really, oh
Woo!
my gosh.
Mr. Ellicott.
I got
Mr.
them soldered
Ellicott.
and thought that they would be in a little bit later, but they came in on time. So
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy for
thank
you.
you.
I have to get used to calling you Avalisa Ellicott. I have to practice because
Mm-hmm.
I mean I want to be able to affirm you because this is a journey. This is an important part of your journey and who you are. And you were the most stunning bride. I mean, the picture you shared on your Facebook page, oh man. I mean,
Yeah, we got so
seriously.
lucky. Somehow, as we were walking out of our reception, there was a photographer there, and I had my sister take some pictures in front of this car that was covered in nickels and pennies. And there was a photographer there, and she was like, "Do you guys want professional photos?" And I was like, "Yes." We kind of skipped out on it because it was way too expensive for an elopement. Um, but yeah, I want some professional photos, and she sent them to me, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm so beautiful, he's so handsome, I'm married now.
Well, your dress was stunning. It was so beautiful. I mean, not that it surprises me that you would have come up with such a beautiful ensemble. Because you
Thank
are
you, thank
just,
you,
you are just gorgeous through and through.
thank you. I
Yeah, you're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Absolutely. So, we have a really exciting episode for those of you who are joining the live stream. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we are on Twitch. All three places live right now. I, however, am live from a new location. Not my
That's the way
typical,
life works.
not my typical progressive pride flag in the background, but I do have to report that I'm in this beautiful, like, look at this place. This is like this amazing hotel room in downtown Lincoln, Nebraska, where Pride is happening. So they're doing Lincoln Pride this weekend, tonight and tomorrow. And so I'm here live streaming from the Kindler Hotel, which is a beautiful hotel. I mean, this room is so gorgeous. The floors in the bathroom are heated. I mean, I literally had no clue. Like, I enter the bathroom before the live stream, and I run in there, and I step on the floor, and I'm like, what? I'm going to stand here and do a live stream. This is
We're looking for a
amazing.
new house, and like it's one of those things that you shouldn't want, but I'm definitely like, I want heated floors
Oh,
in the bathroom.
right?
And I also
Yes.
want heated floors beside the bed so that when you wake up in the
Mm,
morning and you step out of the bed, it's
mm,
warm.
yeah. Yeah.
Tiny
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
luxuries.
All right. Yes. Tiny luxuries. Okay. So here's the deal. It is now 6:05 and we have such an exciting show. Like, a lot of this stuff kind of happens organically and we just kind of go with the flow and we pivot when we need to pivot. And Avalisa and I were talking last week, and we were like, what are we going to do? And how are we going to do this? And we decided we wanted to talk about acting while trans. And a couple of our guests today are local to Omaha, Nebraska, and they are engaged in the local theater community. Our first guest, who is a 26-year-old transmasculine actor, cook, and artist, and the co-founder of Open Arms Trans Social Group, which happens here once a month in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's really it's called Oats, and it's a lot of fun because you get to go and hang out with other trans folks from all ages. I mean, it's like all ages, right? And we just do fun things. We have like holiday parties, and we do little gift exchanges and that sort of thing. So that's a very cool thing that this first guest of ours started. They acted throughout, I'm going to say he acted throughout high school and got his first professional gig as Max in Blue Barn's production of Here. I think it's called Here, or is it Her? Here. I was right the first time. I'm getting a nod from backstage. He's been working on play reads specifically asking for trans actors, and is currently writing a film in which a portion is based on his own experiences growing up in the LGBTQ plus community while being half Latino. Nick is a phenomenal human being who not only loves to challenge gender constructs, but also posts some of the most hilarious memes daily. My little brother from another mother will bring Nicholas Butt. It is
Hello.
Butt joining us. And Nicholas, the one thing that you didn't share, or Nick, you go, Nicholas, Nick, what's your preference?
Nick works best.
Okay, Nick. Yeah. So we didn't share that Nick actually, you were the first transgender person to be cast as a transgender character, right?
I think so.
In Omaha.
I think so. Something like that.
I mean, I think that was what the Blue Barn was sharing about the whole thing anyway. So I don't know, maybe we're wrong, but it's all good. It's all good. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your promo, because you're so funny. You were like, I'm doing this thing, I'm doing it, but I don't know how it's going to sound or what it's going to, and I'm like, it's going to be perfect just as it is. And for those of you who didn't see it, we'll put it in the chat so you can see it. But it's really awesome because Nick is challenging the binary. So share with us a little bit, Nick. Like, I am sure you get some of the most astronomical responses to who you are when you walk out into the world, because you just don't care.
No, I don't. I wear makeup like every single day. I'm wearing like 5 different things of jewelry, and I have like at least one earring in. My hair's all done. I'm wearing a skirt. I wore a skirt like all day yesterday, and everybody was like, I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm super hairy. I've been on T for like 1.5 years. So like everybody's like, oh my God. And I'm like, it's hot. What do you want from me? I don't want to wear pants. It's dumb.
Right?
So like,
and that's one of the that's one of the things that I love about you, like that you just really don't care. I wish more people had that feeling. I mean, it took me 50 years to get to the point where it was like, I don't care what you say about me. I'm going to live my life for me, because I should be the only person who matters. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on the show today and have you be a part of this robust conversation around acting. So thank you so much. I'm going to bring on our next guest. So hold tight, Nick. We'll be back. Our next guest. So also on the show tonight is Ange Bennett, Omaha-based mixed media artist, curator, and queer activist, currently obtaining their Bachelor of Arts in Art History at the University of Nebraska in Omaha. Ange aims to focus on the critical and social approach to art as it relates to Blackness and queerness. They are organizer for the Nasty Artist Collective, which if you have not heard of them and you have not gone to one of their shows, you got to go, because their art is truly challenging all kinds of things, right? All kinds of things. So a community of local artists seeking to use the arts to bring about social change. Ange was named Outstanding Emerging Visual Artist at the 15th Annual Omaha Entertainment and Arts Awards. They're also a 2020 Young, Black, and Influential Award recipient for creativity. And they were one of the main speakers at the Omaha Black Trans Lives Matter rally and march held in July of 2020. A big round of virtual applause snaps for Ange. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. I'm in my car, so I'm probably the only vertical showing person. I apologize for that.
Hey, you know what? You can show up vertical. You can show up horizontal. We are okay. Just as long as you show up, right? That's what I like your shirt. Lead with love. Absolutely.
Yes, milk and
So
daisy.
yes, I have one of their Omaha rainbow the ones, Omaha, Omaha, Omaha with the rainbow.
Hmm.
I don't look quite as lovely as you and your partner and Tina Hahn and her wife look in that shirt, but it's all good. You know what? It's all good, right? But I love that that particular business owner uses a lot of LGBTQ plus folks to promote their business and share their works. So I know that you and Nick are working on a project right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you're working on and how that's going? You're doing
I'm a first timer into this acting business. I happen to have a certain look and it worked out. Uh, I also don't know how much we're allowed to say about this production because they're
oh
working on it in their like fellowship with Great Plains Theater Conference.
okay.
So I don't know how much we're supposed to not say. Otherwise, I would tell you everything because it's amazing. And I just wish I could
Okay.
share it with y'all right
You
now.
know, you know what? It's totally fine. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bookmark this, and the two of you, because you're working on it together, right?
Yep.
So the two of you, when it comes to a point where you are able to share, you're gonna just come back on the show, and then we'll talk all about it. How does that sound?
For
Does that
sure. We
work?
should have, at that point, we should have some type of a recording put together, hopefully,
Oh, okay.
crossing fingers on that. But it's really exceptional and it's like, it covers like mortality and, trans identity and like, it's a lot.
And so is this a local person who wrote this play as well? Is this someone from the
Yes,
Omaha area?
I believe they're in Lincoln, if I'm correct.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they are a local playwright. So it's been pretty cool.
So, Ange, what had you try out for that then? What had you put your name in the hat?
I didn't. I get all these random emails and I'm just like, I don't know where anybody's seen me before, but okay. This sounds cool. I'll do it. That's pretty much what happened. Barry Carmen emailed me and we're in the Art Stock Fellowship together. And he's just like, yeah, someone mentioned you and we'd love to have you. And I'm just like, okay.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, hey, this could launch into a big career for you, right? A whole new stream of things for you to do. So that's
If I
exciting.
don't have to go and do a 9 to 5, sign me up. Where I got a model, where I got to act, just sign me up.
Agreed.
Yeah. You know what? I feel the same way. All right. So, oh my God. Not that I wasn't already excited about this show, because you can ask Avalisa. I have been like jumping out of my skin just because when Ange and Nick both agreed to like be a part of it and want to have this like real frank conversation about what it is to be transgender and non-binary and be in a world that has certain things that they set up in regard to people like us for all kinds of things, not just in acting. But I wanted to really talk about this topic because not enough times you hear from actual trans folks, right? And what it is that we would use in regard to these fields, in regard to these things. And so our third guest joining us today. I'm totally like fanboying over here. I'm gonna have one of my first questions to Emmett. I hope it doesn't embarrass him, but it's okay. So anyway, our next guest, without further ado, is Emmett Preciado, formerly known as Emmett Claren, is an American transgender actor and singer-songwriter of Latin, Spanish, and Italian descent. He was born in Merced, California, but grew up in Chilton, Wisconsin. Emmett actively participated in school musicals as a child and into his teen years. He started to seriously pursue his acting career after dropping out of college to physically transition. Emmett got his first principal role in the spring of 2019. He's known for his role as Rowan on Freeform's Good Trouble. At the end of 2020, he shot his first guest star role as Rio Gutierrez, which can be seen on an episode of the ABC hit drama The Good Doctor. And in the spring of 2021, drum roll please, Emmett guest starred as Mateo Cruz on ABC's Rebel. And if you have not watched Rebel, I am like a total fan of Rebel. I love the show. It is beautiful. There's all kinds of diversity. I mean, it's just truly an incredible show. So, fun fact about Emmett's last name. His former last name, Claren, was actually made up. He never knew his grandfather, meaning Emmett's father didn't know who his father was. On his dad's birth certificate, Claren was the name written down. But in 2019, Emmett's dad took a 23andMe test and found his father. Wow. We got some interesting connections here also with Avalisa. This is so interesting. Emmett's dad took a 23andMe test and found his father and a whole side of the family they never knew about. The name on his birth certificate should have been Preciado, the name he now proudly goes by. So big round of applause and like total fanboy happening over here for Emmett. Oh my gosh, Emmett.
Oh my gosh, that was the nicest introduction ever.
I'm like, I think my face is red.
Mine is too. It's okay. Twins.
Did I embarrass you? Well, you know, we have that Italian stream connection there, right?
Yes.
So we do have that it's Rigatuso. That's my Italian heritage from my dad's side. So we do have that connection. You know, also I read somewhere within your EPK, I read that you actually spent some time in Nebraska. Is this true?
I actually, so I lived in Wisconsin for 10 years. And then my freshman year of high school, we moved to Nebraska. And that's where I finished high school. I went to college for a little bit. If y'all know where South Sioux City, Nebraska is, that's where I went to high school. So
okay, yeah, South Sioux City.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. That is awesome. I just have to say thank you so much because like I've been watching the show, totally fanboying over your character. I love the way that they introduced the character, first of all, and then just the playful way that you've been just about the character and the way the family kind of like, you know, I love that scene where your dad, your father on the show is cooking breakfast and you come walking out and you're like, what are you doing here? Because they're in your place.
Yeah. It was a really fun scene because he made like probably 200 omelets that day and we couldn't eat any of them, and it was so difficult because I love chorizo and I couldn't eat any of it. it was a really fun scene to shoot with him.
Yeah, and I like the fact that like it wasn't this like big dramatic coming out in your trans. Like you dropped the bomb, but it was so like, you know, it was just like this has already been like we're past the point of them already kind of going through your transition. Can you tell me a little bit about how they decided to create the character and why?
Yeah, they I think the network, especially ABC, is really trying very hard to be more inclusive of transgender stories, transgender characters, and having transgender actors play those characters. And what I noticed both with The Good Doctor and with Rebel is that they didn't make a huge deal out of the fact that the character was trans. It was they normalized. It was very normal to be like, oh, cool, yeah, you're trans. That's okay. We'll treat you accordingly. Like they've stepped away from, I think, what Hollywood has done for many years, which is the whole shock factor of, ooh, look at this unicorn, you know, and making a big deal out of it. Now they're like, no, we're just going to normalize it because there are many people like this and trans people are people and we shouldn't be making them the butt of the joke anymore. So yeah, things are starting to... Mm-hmm. You, Nick, I'm like, yes.
I love it. So yes, exactly. And that's something that I think, you know, one of the things that is really cool, especially like I was talking to your manager via email back and forth, and she shared some really extraordinary comments, I think, in regard to like, you know, if we're just putting trans characters or trans folks playing trans characters, there's not enough characters out there. And so it's like what we need to start normalizing that trans characters play cis characters as well. And so so that is super cool. And I love the fact that just that you've had this opportunity to do some of the things that you've done. I love, like, I haven't watched it yet, but now I have to go watch it because Rebel season is over. I hope there's going to be a season 2 and that you'll be back. I also signed the petition. So I signed and shared the petition. I'll make sure that Ange, Nick, and Avalisa and all the people watching also do the same. and I have a question here for Nick in just a second. I'm gonna put Nick on the spot, but one of the things that I thought was really cool and that your manager was saying is that, like, we need to just normalize transgender characters, just playing characters, like getting these roles, not trying to put someone in a box of some sort, because there are way more roles out there for folks who are typically cisgender, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's this weird idea that you have to rewrite a character when a trans person gets a cis character. And it's so stupid because it doesn't have to be a part of my story. If I'm in this movie about, me hating my sister and me killing her and then running away from the law, I'm a murderer. And that's enough. But unfortunately, instead of just giving me that role, it has to be, okay, well, if we really want her, how do we work the trans thing into it? And then they're like, that's too much extra work. Let's just get somebody cis.
I think they need to refilm Pretty Woman, and Avalisa needs to be this character.
I mean,
right?
it's another hooker role.
Well, okay.
Maybe of course I'm already ready for it, but I have a long history of playing that role. Jesus. But I'd love it. I'd love to do that laugh. Oh God, I'd be so good.
Especially, I love that scene where she walks back in and goes, wrong choice, wrong move, right? I could just totally see you doing that. Okay, now I'm going to put Nick on the spot. Nick, did you go watch Rebel? Did you go watch episodes of Rebel?
I didn't get to. I only got to watch little bits and pieces. I know, I'm the worst.
Because I messaged Nick and I was like, guess who's going to be on the show? And then I shared, and then Nick's like, I'm totally embarrassed. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. What is that? And so I shared what it was. And then Nick was like, well, now I have to go watch every episode.
I'm gonna. I promise it's gonna happen.
You better. So, Emmett, can you tell me a little bit more about, like, do you get to, when you try out for roles, like, first of all, was the Rebel role specifically written as transgender?
Yes. The role of Mateo he was transgender from the start. Same with the good doctor, Rio Gutierrez, obviously because he's a transgender, a pregnant transgender man. But the role on Good Trouble actually was originally written as possibly gay or trans. And then a few episodes in, the creator of the show and the writer was like, what if we just didn't dive into a trans narrative and we just made you cis? And I was like, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. Like, finally, because and what my manager was talking about too is just that we don't want trans actors getting typecast and only being like, all they do is trans roles. Because again, like you said, the majority of roles are cisgender. There's just not enough written roles for trans characters. But two, again, it's like, why if a trans person can play a role convincingly, why not cast them? Why does it have to be a trans character? So then they just switched it. So I just became cisgender lawyer, and my sexual orientation was never discussed either. Like, and that didn't need to be important. And they didn't need to make a big deal out of it. So I was really grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so funny. It's interesting though, the way, so I became cisgender.
It was a question that I never ever thought I would ever get asked.
Yeah. I love it though. I was talking to Avalisa earlier, and I was like, I said to Avalisa, so at her bridal shower, we played this little game. So not to embarrass you, Emmett, but I'm probably gonna embarrass you. Do you know what a hall pass is?
Yeah. Like an actual hall pass, or does it mean something else?
Oh, it means something else. Nick's reaction is more than enough.
And
I grew up
and
very Mormon in a very small bubble.
okay. And do you know what
Okay,
a hall pass is?
I was thinking like the school hall pass,
Yeah.
but gauging by the reactions, that's not what they say.
So a hall pass, when you are in a relationship, the hall pass is the person that you can freely do things with. It's an understanding in a relationship that if this person walks into my life, it's out the window. It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
and
interested to hear what is coming next.
well, as we were sitting in Lisa's shower, everybody was like naming like obviously they're like, oh, opposite sex folks and like that sort of thing. And I was just like, but what about like, aren't you? I mean, isn't there someone? And then Avalisa admitted, well, yeah. I mean, heck, what was it? Was it Rihanna or Beyonce?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Beyonce. She's too intimidating. Rihanna, on the other hand, if Rihanna was to come up to me and like take a puff of her blunt and be like, let's go, I'd be like, cool, done. Doesn't matter. No questions.
Oh yeah, same.
But so I was sitting there, right, and I kept thinking to myself, like, I was honestly in the inquiry going, like, is there a guy that I would? Is there something like I could think of non-binary folks? I could think of women, trans women, cis women. But it was like, is there a guy? And then I was like, oh my gosh, Avalisa, I found someone. It's you, Emmett. It's you.
I am honored.
You would be my hall pass. And a lot of it just has to do with your character. Like, you just really have this essence about you, just going and reading some of the things that I read in your EPK, because it's pretty intensive. Like, you've been acting for a long time. And so, part of that might just be more of a like really respect in regard to like who you are and the person that you bring onto set. Like, I will always think of the scene in Rebel, the breakfast scene in Rebel, because you just were so funny and playful, and just the way that you were in that scene. And your dad's like, do you want chorizo in your omelet? And you're like, I told you I'm vegan. And he still puts chorizo in the omelet, and you're like, there's still chorizo in my omelet.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I come from an acting background, and we're all kind of here to talk about experiences acting as a trans person. And I just kind of want to pop that around to everybody here. Like, what has been your experience? I know for me specifically, I was constantly arguing with my agent because I kept getting a bunch of trans roles. And in this specific space of time, all of the roles were kind of the same thing, because, we live in a world where our media coverage and our media representation is not so awesome. But at the same time, it's like, I'd rather it be me than like some man in a dress. And so I was taking a lot of trans roles, and we kept pushing for cis roles, and it didn't happen. But all in all, I have really enjoyed my experience acting, and I wish that there were more roles for trans people, because I feel like it would be a bigger part of my life if it were. I wouldn't have to, fall back on so many other things to make money, because I could get on a series and just like live my life out, popping from series to series. But unfortunately, it's not there. So I do want to pass that around. I want to ask Nick first.
Oh, can I ask Avalisa a question real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Are you in Nebraska too? Or
I'm actually in Arkansas. I was living in Nebraska with my now husband, and he got a job. Thank you. at JB Hunt, and so we moved out to Bentonville, Arkansas, and there may be a move in the future, but I won't say anything about it.
Avalisa is always full of secrets.
Always
So
full of
what?
secrets.
So what is your question? You're asking them to just share, like, what is their view in regard
Yeah,
to
like
the...
their experience in the world of acting.
Nick, you look like you're ready to give us some.
I guess. So like the typecasting thing like has been a big thing for me. Either I'm like in high school, all of the roles I got just for high school plays were always the weirdest possible character that's never human. I was never like a person, except like once. And then after that, now I've done the stage production for here. I remember specifically that like I'd never went out of my way to try and do any professional acting stuff before then. One day somebody was like, hey, there's a role where you have to be transmasculine. And I'm like, hey, I do that. I can do that. No problem. So, you know, I did it. I remember the thing was that like irritated me the most when I did that whole role was like me and my roommate Danny, we went and he was going to read for, I think like my brother's character or something. And then I was obviously Max. And there was all these cis boys that were all trying out for Max's character. I think there was only maybe like one or two other trans masculine folks that actually ended up showing up for Max's character. But as soon as I went in, they're like, done, you're it, Nick. And I'm like, okay, cool, great. And now like when I ended up getting this like Austin's Home one and then the Hot Money one that I'm in now, I actually like got asked like personally like, hey, Nick, want to do these things? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. And it's weird. I've never actually, now that I think about it, I've only had like one cis character that I've ever actually gotten to play, ever. And that was in high school. That was in Inherit the Wind or something. It was Hornbeck or what his name was. But it's a big thing with typecasting for me, but I still kind of go out of my way to look specifically for trans roles at this point because I'm not acting as much, I guess. Then I can kind of be myself for a lot of it, and then I can put a lot of pain and hardship that I have had to put into roles. Like the most recent one that I did for Austin's Home, there's like a huge explodey family meltdown scene, and like my stage mom's like screaming at me about like being trans and breaking up the family and all sorts of garbage and stuff like that, and I just had to channel so much already internal awfulness that I've gone through. And I didn't even really have to like act. I was just like, okay, we're gonna dig into that little anger a bit, and we're just gonna go with it. And whew, every time it hurt, but it worked really well, like super good.
Yeah.
I had a very
I was just going to say, do you think that being able to do that also gives you some release of some of that trauma, familial
Kinda.
trauma?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you get to work through that in that role.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why I'm like writing a movie sort of thing right now. It's still like bare bones, but it's a lot of that is also getting outlet for a lot of the crappy things that I've just had to go through. And it's a creative way to do it.
Yeah.
I did a movie called Rule of Thirds, and I basically played a trans woman who was looking for a new roommate, got a new roommate, super good friends with her. She went through my room one day and found all of my old pictures relating to my transition. And like I get home from somewhere and like she has all of them like laid out. I think I had actually in the movie had just gotten beaten up or something like that. I had gotten bashed in the streets. So I had like all of these bruises on my face and everything. And like I walk into the door looking for that comfort of being home. And like she's telling her friend about how I'm trans and like all of this other stuff. And that was one of the most draining scenes that I have ever had to go through. I remember beforehand, I had to be separated in a room because people don't understand it. But when you're filming an emotional scene, you're doing it over and over and over. And we filmed it like 20 times and I'm bawling the entire time. By the end of the day, I was so exhausted, but I had to continually pull from how hard everything had been. So I do appreciate my journey in that specific role.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Ange? You got anything to share on this topic with that question about playing trans characters?
I got you.
Can you?
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it switched to my Bluetooth on my car. So I'm a noob. Again, the role I got right now, I got personally asked to do it, but as a non-binary person, I think it's a little bit more different, only because like I'm not on T. I've like not had top surgery, so for me, it's like I can try to play trans roles, or I'm leaning into like these hardcore butch lesbian roles because that's what when people look at me, they're like, oh, okay, you could fit that. So that's kind of been where I've been at right now with kind of like getting my feet wet, looking for roles, seeing what's out there. It's been like you either can be the security guard that's a little butch, or you can try to be like this flamboyant trans character. So that's where it's it's interesting. But I'm a huge proponent of just letting trans people play cis people and just cutting that out because
I mean, shit, they've been playing us forever. So.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's also like it's Hollywood's thing too, because when the big gay boom happened, it was like, oh, if an actor came out as gay, boom, every role they got was like a gay character. You can no longer play straight characters. And now it's starting to be like, all right, we can give you this straight character. So now we're the babies on the block. It's like, oh, the trans people are here. So how are we going to make them visible? Let's just make all these trans roles. And maybe 20 years from now, we'll be like, all right, you can play a cis character.
Which, like Emmett, do you think that that Hollywood is moving that? Do you think that it's starting to move in that direction, or do you think it'll happen sooner, or do you think that Ange is right that it's going to be a while before they're going to be really open to trans folks applying for and playing and being casted in roles as cis characters?
I mean, we've come a really long way. Also, I feel like there's a Snapchat filter on my thing, and it's freaking me out because my eyes look so different. I'm like, what? I think it's oh my god, I think it is
so.
It's that. Okay, don't turn me into.
Well, you could have at least done that cat Snapchat filter.
Wow!
I would have appreciated that so much.
Wait a second.
And now you're just a snap camera.
It's because I'm using the snap cam and
now Emmett is actually playing the role of the camera.
I don't want to be this.
Very convincing. Very convincing.
Now I don't know how to fix it.
I appreciate the characterization that has gone into this. You did a lot of work and a lot of research into this role, and okay, you're back.
Okay, I'm not even gonna mess with it. It has a filter on, but if I mess with it, I'll end up turning myself into a potato, and I really don't want to do that. So, but. So my manager, we've been doing a lot of interviews lately where anytime they ask that question about, how do you feel about cisgender actors playing trans roles? Like my manager is now getting to the point where she's like, okay, we've had this question asked so many times. We don't want it anymore. Just stop asking this question because obviously we want trans people playing those characters. Let's move on. Let's get past this. And very similar to what Ange was saying, like we've noticed that we had the gay boom where it was, now it's getting to the point where if there's a gay character, it's not a big deal. It's just, oh, there's a gay character. Now we're moving that direction with trans individuals. We've come very far in just the past 5 years. And it's still relatively slow moving, but I've been a part of these like meetings with Nickelodeon and with other casting agencies that they come to a bunch of trans people and trans actors and they ask questions like, what can we do better when we are casting for roles that involve, non-binary actors, transmasculine individuals? How can we be more inclusive? And they let us know too, please know that you're being non-binary, being transgender, your sexual orientation, none of that is going to hinder you in the casting process. Because the thing is, a lot of people were asking, like, well, if I'm non-binary, should I dress more masculine or dress more feminine, or, you know, what can I do to get these roles? And the casting was like, just present yourself the way that you are and just do the audition. And if you are capable of playing the part, if you can act, it's not going to matter what you look like. They're getting away from that, we want you to look like this, and this. Now it's just, can you act? And if you can play the part, we'll cast you. So they're making steps, they're making changes. I've seen casting calls out here that they're changing. They're a lot more inclusive. There's less of a box around the characters now. They want to see what you can bring to the table, what you bring. And I've seen them morph characters that originally were in a box that I've auditioned for, that when I got the role, we just changed it. So things are changing. There is hope.
I do love that good old character description. Woman from 28 to 33. She's white. She's thin, probably around 115. She's this tall. She has blonde hair. She's heterosexual. Like they used to be very, very intense with character descriptions. And if you were nothing like that, you didn't even audition.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now it's just like woman, 20 to 40, appearance somewhere in there. I'm like, oh, yes.
Thank goodness. They're getting better. They are really getting better.
Yeah, that's very cool. What's your next thing coming up for you, Emmett? Do you have anything new on the horizon, or?
Yeah, I have. As far as shows go right now, everything's pretty much wrapped up filming. The second half of the season for Good Trouble is coming out in July, so stay tuned for that. And I'm lined up to do a few music videos coming up. So this summer I'll be busy doing those, and I'm working on getting back into music right now. So because I kind of took a really long break after, I went through 5.5 years of transitioning and waiting for my voice to stop cracking, and it's finally stopped cracking. So
endless.
Yes. That's awesome. Well, we're excited. Where can we go find out more about your music and stuff? Do you have a website? Do you have a?
So I'm working right now to, like, I'm literally starting like my music over. I've been working on transposing all of the songs that I wrote before my transition. So like we are really at the very beginning of this. But I'm hoping this summer to start recording some things, and hopefully you'll see me singing in a music video or two. So but you can always just, my Instagram, I'm always on my Instagram, Emmett Preciado, and my website, emmettpreciado.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, we would love to have you back once you start to write some things and do some things and record some things. We'd be happy to bring you back on the show and have a conversation in that regard. So grateful that you, like, I'm not kidding when I tell y'all that literally like 4 or 5 days ago, I sent an email to Emmett's team and was like, I know this might be a long shot. I have this little virtual show that I do online, and was wondering, would Emmett be able to come on the show and talk about acting all trans? And I got an immediate response. Yeah,
I love what you're doing. I'm so grateful that this platform that you have exists, because I mean, I went to high school in Nebraska, and I knew one other trans person, and she just so happened to go to my high school, and I was like really, really lucky. But other than that, I did not think there were any other LGBTQ people remotely nearby. And I didn't think that there were any trans people in Nebraska. And so it just warms my heart to know that, like, We exist everywhere.
We do. We are here.
Yeah. Yes.
We are here. Does anybody else? I'm just going to toss it out to anybody. Ange
Yeah.
or Nick or Avalisa, if you have another question you want to ask, please do.
I don't. I was noticing that we had. That's weird. We still have 15 minutes. Oh, duh. Okay, good. I do want to ask. Firstly, I want you to follow me back on Instagram. I just followed you. Secondly, there was a picture posted on June 2nd, and I would like to know more about that.
So very specific.
So very specific.
Now I'm looking it up. I need to see this.
Right.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to know some more about that.
This one.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Oh. Whew.
So y'all, my gender dysphoria is so bad that the only thing that helps, because a lot of times I have to shave for certain auditions or for certain roles, and it just, I can't handle it. For some reason, it just, when I shave, I have the worst dysphoria, and I've only become comfortable with my smile in the past year. So,
and you have an amazing smile. So please stay comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But one of the things that really helps me cope with it is just working out, going to the gym. And when I'm really dysphoric, I go and I take my shirt off at home and I look in the mirror and make the clarification. And I look in the mirror and I just look at my flat chest and I look at I just look at muscles and I just look at that. And for me, that's what helps me, because I get so in my head and I see the old me, and I am learning to love the old me. I am learning to love pre-transition me and to be kind to that person, because she will always be a part of me. And I'm grateful for who I am, because I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for the 21 years I spent as her. So I'm becoming more and more comfortable with that, but there still are times when I look at my body and I'm like, I wish I could cut all that off, and so, yeah, going to the gym helps me a lot with my gender dysphoria. And I've always wanted six-pack abs since I was a child. I always wanted six-pack abs. And so that's what I've been working on. And I just have a lot of pride. And that's why I posted it for Pride Month. Go Pride.
I know personally, when I'm experiencing pretty bad dysphoria, I too will go in the mirror and I just in a pair of panties, and I just look at the curve of my waist and the curve of my hips, and I'm like, okay, this is woman. I'm good. This doesn't look like a man, but I personally, when dysphoria hits, that bitch hits hard. Yeah. She doesn't wear gloves. She just right in the face, and it's.
I think it's really interesting, because I know that for myself, I mean, although I say I'm transmasculine and I, I'm also two-spirit. I'm Native American, and I feel like, for myself, more both and, but I'm very firmly rooted in my expression being transmasculine. So therefore, I would appreciate if you use he, him pronouns. I'm fine with a they, them pronoun, but she pronouns just will send me over a rooftop, because it's just frustrating. And so, share for me a little bit, if each of you could kind of think about that, because one of the things that I don't know if we talk about enough as a community of trans folks, being binary trans and non-binary trans folks, can you share with me what are some ways that we as a community could be better about each of those things? because I find a lot of times that there are transgender folks who are very binary, who are not really very accepting or kind for folks like Nick, for example, who is gender non-conforming, and for Ange, who is non-binary. Like, what can we do to be more supportive in general of the spectrum, the whole spectrum that is folks who are transgender? What do you think?
I am going to say something that has been talked about for a really long time and not publicly. And I have mentioned some things to some of my friends who don't follow the binary specifically. But there's this idea that our journeys, trans people that are binary and trans people that are non-binary, are very different. And to understand that we are sticking to the binary and we need the binary to be mentally sane, and then to have people on the other edge saying, fuck the binary, gender doesn't exist, blah, 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 all this other stuff, that's really harmful to us. And, you know, on the same end, binary trans people are like, well, I did this to be a woman. I don't understand, like, not going all the way there. There's lots of trans people that say non-binary people are trans people that didn't feel like they could make it. And so they landed somewhere in the middle. And there's so much misunderstanding. And I think a lot of the issue is around trans people that do follow the binary, all of the work that we have put in. And we have worked hard as fuck to be able to do the things that we do. And, you know, it's just like Ange was talking about, how it was the gay movement and how everything was about understanding gay people. And now that that has normalized, now we've moved on to a trans issue. And trans binary people have been in this swing for a really long time. And now non-binary people have hopped in on the swing. And we're kind of falling back the other way because people don't understand non-binary. And instead of binary trans people helping them understand, I think a lot of binary trans folks are like, get off, let me finish this upswing, and then we'll get back to you. And I think that that disconnection is what's harming us the most. And I feel like there has to be a way where we can say we're different but the same. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on it. Anybody else?
Well, and I don't disagree. I think that there's a lot of education that still needs to happen, and I'm not a fan of trans folks who are not inclusive of non-binary folks or folks who are intersex. I mean, for me, I'm gonna say something about it anytime I hear it happen, when people are tearing down others. But Ange, you were gonna say something. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
It's tricky because, like, I've identified as non-binary for like the last 13 years. But the terms keep changing for that particular gender identity. So it was like gender queer when I was 18, then it was gender non-conforming, then non-binary. So I think that does a disservice too, because when we talk about like binary people of trans experience, it's very much so clear cut. I'm a woman of trans experience. I'm a man, you know. And so non-binary people, we're just like, well, shit, it's a new term. Am I still like gender non-conforming, or am I like, like, you know, even over here, we're just like, dang, it switched again. What are we? And so that doesn't help either. But like I say, I've held this identity, and you know, it's hard because, you know, there's days where I wake up and like I'm leaning into one thing, and then there's the day I'll wake up and I'm like, maybe I'm leaning into this. And so it's kind of all over the place for me, because I'm like, gender for me is so hard, because I'm like, give me female things, give me male things, but don't tell me I have to be a woman or a man to be able to live in my identity and my existence. And that's tough, because we all got our own battle. So it's hard to tell binary people of trans experience, hey, come help people understand who I am, when y'all gotta get people to understand y'all stuff. So that doesn't help either. And then when you add on all the umbrella terms and, the T is always kind of falling off anyways. So now we're like trying to rope that back up. And now trans people are like, well, non-binary people don't exist over here with us. So now we're like, do we add more letters? Where do we go? Like the queer community is just a mess in itself. And that doesn't help. It's like if we could just all of the queer people to just get together, like some type of council or something, and say we are all marginalized. We are all going through something right now, and at any point in time, all of our rights could be taken away. It doesn't matter if you're lesbian, gay, bi, trans, pans, whatever. If we could figure that out, we might be going somewhere. But I don't ever want to feel like I have to tell a binary trans person to, because it's like I say, we are all fighting these battles in the like spotlight. So it's just so hard.
Yeah. I mean, individually, our own battles, collectively, a battle. Like, totally get it. Thank you for that, Ange. That was very insightful, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I do look at it like this. I always talk about the initialism, and I say, look, every one of those letters individually means something to someone. So dropping one off, leaving one off. I hope that we have 27 letters in that initialism one day, because that's 27 different people that are being represented in a way that works for them. And so that's the biggest piece of it. But I don't disagree with you. I mean, I'm going to share just really like quickly, because I don't want to I am consistently misgendered. Consistently. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm in this beautiful hotel room, and I almost wasn't in this beautiful hotel room because when I walked up to the counter to check in and I asked for help with some luggage because I needed to bring some stuff in, and the person behind the counter says to this other gal who walked over with the cart, hey, she needs help with her luggage. And I was
again.
I'm like, well, I'm sorry, he needs help with my luggage. Like, where do you get that my pronoun is she? And the response was, oh, I call everybody she. And I was like, no, well, no. Right? I'm like, now you're going to gaslight me. No, this isn't going to happen. And I don't want to belabor the point because I am obviously here in this hotel room. But I do want to share that I spent a good hour talking to the general manager and impressing upon them that y'all need to do some training. I'm happy to do that training. I offer some of that training. I am connected to a group, Kindred Psychology, here in Lincoln, who, by the way, I'm actually here because they invited me to come and be a part of their Pride booth, and I'm going to be speaking at Pride in Lincoln tomorrow. And so part of this, like, because the Kindred people were like, hey, we have this room. Why don't you do your live stream in this room? And I was going to actually pay for the room because they're not going to be here. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, this is not a cheap hotel either. Okay. It's $270 a night. And so I'm sitting over here, I'm having this conversation with this general manager, and the general manager who's doing better and saying some things. I'm going to get to the good part of this here in a minute, but it's one of those things where it's like, but like, we're all people and we all make mistakes. And I'm like, nope, try again. Nope, try again. And then finally though, she was like, Eli, what can I do? Like, I don't want you to stay here if you don't feel comfortable staying here, but what can I honestly do? And I was like, I don't know, offer me a meal in the lounge, offer me 25% off the hotel stay, offer me something. But it's sad that like I even had to say that. But then she finally did say, she goes, look, if you are comfortable staying here and want to stay here, I am going to comp the night. I am going to comp the room. And I was like, now that that works for me. Like, how can I disagree with
As
that?
you should.
Right. But I'm thinking to myself, like, I hope she takes me up on the opportunity to do some training, to uplift some knowledge and awareness, because, I'm there's not enough that happens, but it also doesn't happen within our own community, right? That's why I love what you just said, Ange, because it's like we actually are all in this together. And if we don't start to look at, here's the thing that I really love about this live stream right now is that we are all Black and brown people. And I think, Avalisa, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first live stream that we've done that all of our guests were Black and brown people. I think so.
This is.
And there is an intersection of identity that happens for us that a lot of people just do not get. And so it's important to take those things into consideration. Anyway, sorry to hijack the conversation there, but I wanted to illustrate the point, because here's the thing. I'm staying at this hotel. It is called the Kindler. It is a beautiful hotel, and I will speak well of them going forward. And I hope that they take me up on the offer to do the training. But I had to spend an hour of my time dealing with something that I shouldn't have had to deal with. I was like, what do I need to braid my beard? Like, what do I need to do here so that you can see this? Like, I'm not wearing a mask, right? So this is the other piece of it. It's like, not only do we need that work here in the community, we need to have the other work that happens outside of the community. But I want to hear what if anybody else is willing to share. We are at the end of our hour, but I love where this conversation is going. And if you're willing to stay and want to add a little bit more insight and awareness to the can of worms that we just opened in regard to like being out in the world as trans. I mean, I know the show is on acting as trans, but like just living as trans people and some of the things that we have to face, both internally and externally on a daily basis. Nick or Emmett, is there anything else you want to add in regard to that? And if you do have to leave, feel free to go. Don't want to hijack anybody into a conversation, but if you want to stay and continue for just a little bit longer, that would be really cool, because I'd like to hear from both Nick and Emmett. So whoever wants to jump in, do it.
I was gonna. Oh, here we go. Okay. I was gonna say that I feel like I've been in LA for 2 years now, and I think I'm starting to take for granted how much awareness there is out here on the West Coast, and how there's sensitivity training everywhere for every company, because there's just so many more LGBTQ people out here. And so companies have to have these trainings, and they have to educate people. And I forget how little of that there is in the Midwest, and how, it takes time before things make their way to the Midwest. And so that's why I feel like this is really important, to have these kinds of conversations, to talk about the hard things, because if they don't get talked about, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to happen. People aren't going to realize that these are issues that need to be resolved. Mm-hmm. If we don't talk about them, then people are just going to be like, oh yeah, I guess that's a problem, but that doesn't happen here, or it doesn't happen enough for us to worry about it. And the thing is, how many other trans people have been to perhaps that same hotel and been misgendered, but they just didn't say anything because they didn't want to deal with it, like, so you standing up and saying something, that's going to make a difference for the next person, and maybe prevent somebody else getting misgendered, or having to go through that, or having to talk to a general manager for an hour. So I'm very grateful that you're talking about these things, you're bringing up these conversations and having these conversations, because they are really important. And my best friend is non-binary, transmasculine, and they just recently came out in the past year as non-binary. And so I went from using he, him pronouns to they, them, but I have to call myself out, because I did not do a good enough job at using the they them pronouns. And it kind of got to the point where I started to notice that they and also other trans non-binary individuals would say, well, my pronouns are they them, but if you say he him, that's fine too. And then I realized, like, oh, they're saying that because they, like, my friend was saying that because they didn't want to feel like a burden and make it too difficult for me to use their pronouns. And I was like, that's just, I should just have the respect and make the effort to use their preferred pronouns. And so that's something that I'm trying very hard to do with anyone that I meet who's non-binary. I go by the pronouns that they want me to use instead of, or you can use these if you forget. Like, no, we need to respect everyone's pronouns, their preferred pronouns. And I think that is something that's really important in recognizing that, yes, non-binary people exist and their pronouns are not just something that you can play with. Take it seriously, you know?
And it's like I tell people when Avalisa and I train, I talk about what is a pronoun that honors you. If you're not sure, what's the pronoun that honors who you are? And anybody can ask that question of anyone. And to me, like if someone asks me that, I'm like, okay, good. You see me. You see me enough to know to ask. But just to randomly throw a pronoun on me that you don't know for sure is right, that part is like the most egregious piece of it. It's like, look, that is really egregious. And especially when you turn around and deny the fact that you did just misgender me and you didn't even, like a flippant apology that didn't really address the issue, right? And so that was the part that was the hard part. And, I look at it like this. I can feel for non-binary folks. I didn't come out as transgender until I was 50. And my transition is, I'm never going to arrive anywhere. This is me. Like, I have my top surgery. And after my top surgery, I finally acknowledged that I was like, oh my gosh, that is what was causing me dysphoria. And that gave me so much freedom. And it was like, I finally felt like I was inhabiting my body. Right. And so to walk out into the world and have people like throw that random she at me or ma'am me is like the most frustrating thing in the world. Nick, you look like you're about ready to jump out of your skin. Tell us a story, Nick. Tell us a story.
Well, I will definitely agree with Ange with the the ever changing words and stuff for everything. And also the education factor, because for a long time, for like the longest, I didn't even know that trans men were able to exist. I thought that only trans women were the only trans people to exist. That was all I was ever taught. And then as I got older, I was like, okay, trans men can exist. I might be doing that. So I was like thrown to super hyper masculine overdrive for like 5 years. Because I transitioned in high school and that was awful idea, but whatever. But I went from, this super manly, go home, just dude. And then one day I was like, I can wear whatever I want. This doesn't matter to me. Like I know who I am. I'm just some dude, but I'm going to be some dude in some dress. That's going to be me. That's cool with me. And then, I started doing makeup and stuff and started doing all the things that I love doing. And now I'm like, literally my expression is like this big question mark. My identity is very much male, but my expression is, who knows? But evolving from that and going from the hyper masculinity to knowing that I can have some androgyny, I feel like the best title I've ever found for my gender identity would be demi boy, I guess, maybe, because I'm a boy, but I'm also something else. don't really know what the other part is. It's up to interpretation for that day. But now with all the ever changing titles and stuff, I can see how it gets hard for people. But at the same time, now since I've gone through that whole arc of going from the binary to nearly non-binary, I don't really know where I stand there. But now I just educate people on that from my own perspective, obviously. And it's cool now because now I have all these friends that are coming out as non-binary and they're like, hey, Nick, really helped me through like all of that, and now they're really comfortable with it. And I don't know, I'm like this big quirky crazy thing that helps people with it. I don't know. There was a point that I had, but like, and then like recently I've been doing he they pronouns and stuff too. I've been trying that on. That's pretty nice. It works. I'm digging it.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, there are folks, because there are so many different ways, I think, to express one's gender, that there are people out there who are looking for that person that they can relate to. And that's the person that they're like, wow, like I really was able to step into being who I am thanks to you.
Yeah.
And so like I appreciate that you are being who you are, and you're out there with the young folks and showing
my last
them.
name's Butt. I have to do everything as loudly and ridiculous as possible. There's no other option for me.
There are no buts about it.
Exactly.
I'm sure that you have heard all of the things in regard to your name.
I've been the butt of every joke, yes.
I swear. So let me ask you this. If you become a famous star, right, and move to LA, will you always keep your name? Okay, when?
Of course.
When you?
Of course.
I can't wait to see you on a talk show sharing all the stories about your last name.
You're gonna ask the same. Everybody asks the same thing. Is that really your last name? No, I've just been making it up this whole time. All of my
living life. Yep. Living life as a butt.
Oh my gosh, man! Thank you.
I did just find out that when we are conceived, we start off as a butt hole.
We do. That's the first hole.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. Great.
I'm into having that knowledge. I'm happy that this is now knowledge that I have in my head.
And they were like, yeah, we all start off as an a hole. Sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on here.
You can say it. Come on, Emmett, say it.
Makes the joke better. We all start off as an asshole, but some people just never mature past that stage. So no, healthy reminder.
That is a very helpful reminder. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge, dropping that little knowledge bomb. So here's the deal. It is almost 7:15. Is there anything any of you all want to say, anything else that you want to share? I just want to quickly say thank you to all three of you. You all contributed some really amazing stuff to the conversation this evening. We had a couple of folks share some fun comments. Angie Phillips says, I appreciate you sharing your honesty, this honest and open conversation. Love this panel. And all of y'all are sexy as fuck, just to be clear. Okay. So, yeah, I appreciate that too, especially after the night I had. I will say this much, though. I appreciate that the hotel is making up for it, that I was able to still do this live stream and be here with you all. Emmett, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a yes. Like you really totally made my week. And Nick, I love you both so much. And I'm so grateful that you joined in on the conversation. But if anybody has anything else they want to say here within the next couple of minutes, please feel free to do so.
Last words.
Well, can I just say that I think all of you are so handsome, so beautiful. It just really makes me so happy to know that there are some very strong, out and proud queer people and queer actors in the Midwest and in Arkansas and just like making a difference. And if y'all ever make the move, or when y'all make the move to LA, please hit me up and we'll hang out. We'll go to the beach. And also, we can talk about, I love offering tips and stuff about getting representation. My manager is the absolute best. And so when y'all are ready to make that move, just let me know. And I would just love to, I want everybody to be represented.
Does your manager also have representation? No, I'll ask that in the after show.
I got you.
Yeah, because when we end the broadcast, don't leave, because the five of us are going to stay here and have a little bit of a chat after we end the broadcast. But Nick or Ange, do you have anything else you'd like to say to the folks that are still watching? Nick's like,
Nope, I sure don't.
Not to them. I think that what y'all are doing is dope. I've like tuned into I've watched some of the YouTubes after it's aired, and I think this is a good platform. It's different. It's refreshing. So yeah, y'all keep doing what you're doing. And I don't give a lot of compliments all the time, so.
And you know what?
I know how rare it is. I appreciate it.
I do know. I also know how rare it is. So thank you. Like that. I mean, I might need you to type that in a comment and put it out there to the world.
No, just go back to the video. Take that.
Oh, there you go. I'll just pull that out as a promo.
Yeah, just take this clip. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Means so much. Means so much. All right. For those of you who are still watching the live stream, thank you so much for sticking around here for Frankly Speaking. I am Eli Rigatuso, your co-host with Mrs. Avalisa Ellicott. We just are
Avalisa Ellicott. Oh, jeez, it feels so good. I do want to thank everyone that watched. I want to thank everyone that has been a part of this. It honestly means so much, and we love having you here. I want to say thank you to the patrons that subscribe to Speaking of Happy. We appreciate your donations and what they do. They allow us to do these things, and they also allow us to give and pay our guests, because trans people deserve to get paid. Stop asking us to do shit for free.
Yeah, and just an FYI, so Emmett, just want you to know I haven't had a chance to communicate this to your manager yet, but I do pay a $30 stipend to all guests, and that includes you. So you will get a $30 stipend for being here on the show. So thank you so much. Ange and Nick, I got your back. I was really horrible about putting things up today because I usually ask people to also tip people. So I'm just going to throw those up there real quick. If you want to tip Nick, you can go to paypal.com/snackbutt.
That's me.
Which I absolutely had to say. PayPal.com//snackbutt if you want to go and shoot a tip over to Nick. And then if you want to toss some cash out to Avalisa, there's Avalisa's pages. And then I am so horrible, but I'm going to just build this really, really super quick because I'm just terrible. I thought I had built Ange's, but I'm going to do this now. So Venmo is Venom. I just typed Venom. Venmo is at ANGRBENNET, or Cash App is $ANGRBENNT. Two T's?
Two T's. Everybody always leaves off that other T, see?
You know what?
Now I have two T's at the end of my last name. I get it.
There are two T's in Emmett.
Two T's in mine. People always do one.
Two T's in butt. Look at this.
There you
I
go.
get so many lost emails because people always put BENNET.
I always try to put an S at the last name for mine.
Yeah, look at this though, y'all. All of y'all have two T's in your name. This is the two T's show, not one, two T's. I will never forget. So if you want to toss a tip out to Ange, you can go to Venmo at Ange R. Bennett, two T's, or Cash App at $Ange R. Bennett. Again, thank you both so much. Thank you everyone for watching the show this evening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another new episode of Speaking of Happy. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks, another new episode of Frankly Speaking, where we're going to be talking about surgeries. All right, you're gonna wanna be here for that. All right, thank you all so much.
And if you want to be able to catch the after show, it is available exclusively on the Speaking of Happy Patreon page.
Yes. So if you go to www.patreon.com/speakingofhappy, you can become a patron. There are some other little awards that you can qualify for. And I have come up with a really amazing Pride package that I'm going to be promoting, I believe, next week on Speaking of Happy, where if you sign up for our Patreon, your name is going to go into a drawing for this really dope Pride package. So thank you all again so much. Thank you to our viewers. We're going to end the live broadcast, but if our guests would stick around here for just a moment, we're going to have a little after talk convo. Have a great night. Oh, can we please see Emmett?
I've been sitting on that one the entire
You want to see it?
time.
I can do it. So that's actually my girlfriend. That was my girlfriend who commented. And I was like, oh, I can totally turn myself into a potato if you want to see it.
All right, let's do it for the after show and make people have to come to our page.
Do it.
Yes.
Too late. Oh my God, that is freaking hilarious.
Anyway,
all right, we are gonna close down the live stream. Thank you so much to all of our viewers. This has been another episode of Frankly Speaking. See you next week, or see you in 2 weeks.